Tashdile and welcome to Tibet This Week. This is Sakina Bhatt with another edition of weekly news on Tibet, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Central Tibetan Administration. Let's look at the headlines first. His Holiness the Dalai Lama speaks on oneness at the Ik Noor Interfaith Conclave. Cultivating compassion in the next generation, says His Holiness the Dalai Lama. CTA President advocates Tibet in Switzerland. Chinese ambassador's statement on Tibet misleading and not true. China jails Tibetan man for sharing Tibet-related books on WeChat. United States wants United Nations to take up Dalai Lama's succession issue. Touching upon his 4 major commitments at Amritsar, His Holiness the Dalai Lama remarked on oneness of humanity and religious harmony. An interfaith conference titled Ik Noor Interfaith Conclave was held at the Guru Nanak Dev University on Saturday last week. The conference is a part of a week-long celebrations of the 550th birth anniversary of the first Sikh Guru, Guru Nanak Dev. Addressing the gathering, His Holiness spoke on the importance of religious equality and the revival of Nalanda tradition.
I really believe, and also I practice, oneness of entire 7 billion human beings. India, on the basis, with modern education, ancient Indian education, about training of our mind, that should combine modern education oriented about material value, and religious side, pray to God. Now, in this country, not only pray to God, but training our mind. So these days, I sort of telling people from kindergarten level, you see, while we educate children, hygiene of just physical, meantime, we also need hygiene of emotion, must start from kindergarten level up to university level.
And this is a very important meeting actually. We need more such meetings coming up because the problem which today's world is facing, especially the communal tension which we have, it is only owing to the misunderstanding that we have about each other. So when we open our hearts and speak out our hearts, as true children of one divinity, it becomes a platform from where we can expect peace and harmony to spread all over the world.
Over 1,500 members participated in the discussion through video conferences from 6 different universities and institutes in Washington, D.C. during an interactive conversation with His Holiness the Dalai Lama in Dharamshala on Monday this week. The discussion on cultivating compassion in the next generation involved youth and community leaders from Washington State, led by Cyrus Habib, the Lieutenant Governor of Washington. The discussion dwelled on topics including mitigating climate change, overcoming inequality, and improving civil discourse in politics.
Altruism is not only something important according to religious sort of tradition, but health viewpoint and happy society. And finally, happy world, happy humanity. Warm-heartedness is the key factor. And this human wonderful brain should cooperate with warm-heartedness.
So he shared some of those messages that you all are very familiar with, that are encapsulated in the many, many books that he has written, regarding the importance of educating the heart as well as the mind, not just focusing on facts, but focusing on truths.
It was a super amazing experience. I feel so lucky, and he just exudes so much joy, and he's so funny, and he's so wise.
The Compassion 2020 delegation also visited the Central Tibetan Administration. A day ahead of the 2019 Geneva Forum, President Dr. Lobsang Sangay garnered attention and support to the Tibet issue at the Swiss Parliament. Dr. Sangay called on members of the Parliament, Priska Bihe-Himo and Martina Munz, Swiss Parliamentary Group for Tibet, regarding on the ongoing repressive policies and violation of human rights in Tibet under the Chinese rule and urged for continued support for the Tibet issue. The President also met a delegation of high-ranking officials of Federal Department of Foreign Affairs and held an hour-long closed-door meeting where they discussed on a range of topics concerning the reincarnation of His Holiness the Dalai Lama and CTA's commitment to middle way approach. Dr. Sangay also gave interviews to the Swiss media and spoke on Sino-Tibet dialogue, human rights and democracy, China's Belt and Road Initiative, self-immolation protest in Tibet, among others. Department of Information and International Relations Information Secretary Tsewang Gyalpo Arya condemned the article written by Chinese ambassador to India Sun Weidong titled China's Tibet, A Story of Progress in Hindustan Times. The Chinese ambassador in the article stated, Tibet has been a part of China since ancient time. It enjoys development and progress. Surprised at the audacity of China making such statement in India, a country that knows the best what Tibetans have gone through all these years, Tsewang Gyalpo Arya called the article misleading and not true.
Yes, so recently Chinese ambassador in New Delhi has written one article in a Hindustan Times paper. So this is the article in which he has said, the headline is China's Tibet, A Story of Progress, in which he has said that Tibet enjoys development and religious freedoms in all these 60 years of occupations, and he has said about many historical things also in which that Tibet has been a part of China since ancient times. So all these statements are very misleading and not true. So for the Tibetans, so all these 60 years has been 60 years of repression and occupations. And the development they have been speaking about, the double-digit GDP, it is all about the militarization of the Tibetan plateau and the mining and the tunnel diggings and the massive immigrations of the Chinese settlers in Tibet. All these amounts are spent on these issues. And on historical aspect also, he has said that Tibet belongs to China since ancient times because he has quoted the Yuan dynasty. Yuan dynasty is a Mongol dynasty. It is not a Chinese dynasty. So there is no way China can claim Tibet because of the Yuan dynasty. And about the reincarnation of His Holiness the Dalai Lama also. The Qing dynasty is a Manchu dynasty. It is also not a Chinese dynasty. Even if it is taken as a Chinese dynasty, first Dalai Lama was born in 1391. And the Qing dynasty started in 1644 only. So the Dalai Lama precedes the Qing dynasty. So it is very ridiculous to say that the Qing dynasty has the authority of the Chinese selection of the Dalai Lama. So in that way, that most of the statement made by the ambassador is not true. And at the same time, I feel that we all should, India, Tibet, and China, should work together to find a peaceful solution rather than the Chinese ambassador trying to distort the history and provoke India unnecessarily.
A 45-year-old Tibetan Wangchuck was arrested and detained from Shigatse by Chinese police officers around 8th March this year on his return home from a business trip to Tibet's capital Lhasa. The reason behind Wangchuck's arrest is suspected to have been linked with his sharing of Tibetan books on the Chinese app WeChat that included some books written by His Holiness the Dalai Lama and a Tibetan translation of The Noodle Maker of Kalimpong. The exact information on his current whereabouts is unknown. Since Wangchuck's imprisonment, his family members have been subjected to restrictions and punishment. In the recently published Freedom House's 2019 annual report on Internet freedom, China topped the list of world's worst abusers of Internet freedom for straight 4 years. The United States wants the United Nations to take up the Dalai Lama's succession in order to stop China from making its meritless claims over the religious succession. The U.S. Ambassador at Large for International Religious Freedom, Sam Brownback, told AFP, "I think it's really important to have an early global conversation because this is a global figure with a global impact," he said, referring to the Dalai Lama. The ambassador had told the Dalai Lama that the US would seek to build global support for the principle that the choice of the next Dalai Lama belongs to the Tibetan Buddhist and not the Chinese government. The ambassador for religious freedom also made clear in a statement here at Dharamshala that the US stance on the reincarnation of the Dalai Lama is in accordance with the resolutions passed at the 3rd Special General Meeting of Tibetan people. So much for today. See you next time and have a great weekend.